Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the Brewing Business Show. This is a space dedicated to the craft beer industry and entrepreneurs who wants to learn more about mindset, health, wealth, business, and of course, beer. I'm your host, Pedro Meneses, and before we start, I just want to make sure you buckle up, crack open a cold one, and get ready to hear some life-changing information. Cheers! So welcome back everybody to episode 35 of the Brewing Business Show. Guys, if you already know the drill, don't forget to leave me that review on iTunes so you can help more people to find the show. And if this is your first time, be sure to check out the previous episodes because there's plenty of information back there that can change your life. And today, guys, I hope you guys are ready because we're going to have a different episode today. And actually, my guest today is someone that's going to come to disrupt your thought process. Is here to change your mind, and is here to show you how you can actually stand against everything that is trying to bring you down in life. He is the owner of Atilis Gym in Bellmawr, New Jersey, and recently, for the past few months during the stupid pandemic, he gained a lot of attention because he's one of the few small business owner who stand against the tyranny and all the bullshit the governor in New Jersey is coming up with, trying to hurt all the small business. So I hope you're ready, because if you're weak, if you not have the strong mindset, this show is not gonna be for you, because we're gonna talk real shit in this show and in this episode. So welcome to the show, Ian. It's a pleasure to have you here, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No, man, it's an honor. Like I was telling you before we started the show, man. I mean, I've been following you for a couple of months. That's the reason why I reached out to you, because I really wanted to have you in this show, because, I really like to inspire people through this show and help others to, men and women, but especially I think I feel more identified to help other men and business owners, to actually get their shit together and understand that they have the power in their hands to do whatever the fuck they want with their lives, to develop their entrepreneur journey and gain that freedom. Freedom is all about being an entrepreneur, right?
You said it. That's really that's what it comes down to. It's, if you want to be a small business owner, that means taking charge. And taking charge means taking responsibility. And you're greatly rewarded for that, with the freedom to do whatever you want and to call the shots in your own life. But it comes at a heavy price, and you have to be prepared to A, put in the work, and B, defend it, because business isn't easy, no matter what type of business you're in. Even when you've, quote unquote, made it, you're still going to face challenges every day. And, the business landscape is always evolving. So freedom, like they said, freedom is not free, and you have to work for it in many, many ways, but it's always worth it.
Absolutely, man. That's something that many people don't understand nowadays. Like everybody thinks that, you can just start this course and in 1 week you're gonna become a six-figure earner or even a millionaire. That's complete bullshit, But before we get into all that, man, that I know that's gonna help inspire a lot of people. Tell us a little about your story. And like I mentioned before, guys, he's been standing against all the bullshit going on in his state. And he's been opening his business for the past 8 months. So tell us a little about what's going on, a bit about who's Ian Smith, so people can get to know you better, brother.
Okay. I am one of the co-owners of Atilis Gym in Bellmawr. We are Governor Murphy's favorite small business. On March 18th, after being shut down for 2 months, we decided about a week before that we were going to reopen. My business partner, Frank, and I, we spent most of the lockdown kind of prepping to reopen, and nothing ever came. It was just shut up and wait, shut up and wait, shut up and wait. And, as everybody remembers, it was only 14 days, but 14 days turned into 3 weeks, 3 weeks turned into a month, and a month was very rapidly approaching 2. And no help was to be found, no support was to be found, no guidance was to be found, no direction. Government just kept telling us to be patient, and our patience just wore out, for a couple of reasons. We decided that we were going to open up, first and foremost, not just to protect our business, but to protect our way of life. It's right. As much as it was about reopening our gym and feeding our families and stuff like that, what it truly was about at the bottom of it was standing up for what was right. The lockdown, whether or not it was intentionally done or a sort of an opportunity that arose from a crisis, the lockdown was used to strip Americans of their most basic fundamental rights.
Absolutely.
and not just one or two, but almost every single one of them. So we took a stand for that. We took a stand because we were looking around, and overnight the world had transformed, and people had just dropped to their knees. And I wasn't going to live like that, and neither was Frank. Frank and I are your regular guys, man. We're nothing special. You know, we don't drive around fucking sports cars. You know, we're hardworking middle class Americans. Frank's got a family of 5 kids and a wife. You know, I have a girlfriend and kid at home. You know, and we work hard. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into this business, and we weren't going to let somebody take it away from us without a fight. So it was never really a question of you know, if we should. It was when we should reopen. So on May 18th, after announcing very publicly on Tucker Carlson that we were going to open our gym, we did. And we did to hundreds of supporters out in the parking lot, national media attention, Fox and Friends, Pete Hegseth, every news station in the country was here. And we had a line wrapped around the building of people who wanted to come work out. We had a very, very, very comprehensive safety protocol in place. We opened. We were met with resistance, and I'll give you the short version because it's a very long one. The first day we got some citations. We stayed open. Second day we got some citations. They decided to cite and arrest a couple of our members as well. Wednesday, the same thing. We stayed open. Thursday, early in the morning at like 1 a.m., they came and shut down our gym via a health department violation, saying that we were shut down because coronavirus. Nobody ever stepped inside the building. Nobody ever looked at our safety protocol. Nobody called us. Nobody contacted us in any way. They just came up, slapped a sticker on the door and said, you're shut down. So we said, fuck that. And we opened anyway. We opened again. And on Friday, Governor Murphy went in front of a disgrace of a judge. His name is Robert Luggie. He's a lapdog and a yes man at best. And got a court order to change our locks. So Friday night, they came and broke our locks with the county sheriff, and they locked us out of our own building. We were locked out for about 3 weeks. And then we picked the locks, got back inside. We had an essential business inside. We agreed to play nice for a little while because we had a federal lawsuit against Governor Murphy. That federal lawsuit never went anywhere because we got in front of another disgrace of a judge who decided that he didn't want to do his job. And make a controversial ruling. So he kicked it back to state court. So in the meantime, Frank and I were dragging about 45,000 pounds worth of equipment outside every day, dumbbells, barbells, plate loaded machines, everything, benches, squat racks were coming out. And on July 4th, we said we had enough. We gave the justice system, or the judicial system a chance, and it failed us. So we began on July 4th, we said no better day to get arrested. So we opened back up on Independence Day inside. And about a month later, we were hit with contempt of court charges. That's when our daily fines began. We are currently being fined $15,497.76 per day for being open, which has absolutely no correlation to the amount of money that we make. To give you a figure, we probably do about $30,000 of revenue a month. So I don't know where they got that figure from other than trying to cripple our GoFundMe. They threatened that they were going to change the locks again. So at that point, Frank and I took the doors off of the hinges and we camped out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, opening the gym the entire time. Meanwhile, our members have not been charged since the shutdown began. We still don't charge our members. We run exclusively off of donations, t-shirt sales, and water bottle sales. So they finally arrested us a couple Mondays later. They arrested us and we came back and the doors were locked. The doors were boarded up with plywood. So we took a day off or two and we came back and we kicked the doors in front of national media again. And we turned the lights on, turned the music back on, and reopened our business like we are totally entitled to. We got hit with contempt of court charges again about a month later. We were still staying here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Frank and I slept here for like 40 days in a row without ever leaving the building. We had food delivered, everything. Showering in the showers here. Finally, Governor Murphy was going to come and erect a steel barricade in front of our door. and we declared ourselves a political location to circumvent the EO,
Right.
because apparently coronavirus can't spread at political locations.
Yeah.
And 3 days later, Governor Murphy opened the gyms up. We're still being fined, even though gyms are open, because we refuse to make people wear masks.
Right.
Governor Murphy wants people to wear cloth face coverings, which is not a mask, and has 0% efficacy. And not to mention that it's quite dangerous to wear when you're working out. He said that if we would mandate it, he would stop fining us, and we told him to go fuck himself. So now we're somewhere over $1 million in fines, and we're in a very, very long legal battle with the state. We're in the appellate division of state court, and we plan to take this all the way to the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. Well, at this point, I think it's more than it is became more a personal battle with this motherfucker, you know, because I mean,
It is, yes, it is extremely personal for him.
yeah, because the gyms are open now, they can find you. And by the way, for you guys listening or watching this right now or in the future, at this point, you've been open for what, 8 months, right? Around
Six.
I don't have. I'm not aware of the time, man. That's
Yeah,
you know,
six. Give or take.
it's 6 months. Okay. Tell the audience right now, man, like during these 6 months, how many people have walked into your gym and you haven't reported 0 cases of COVID?
I'll tell you the exact number. As of this morning, it is 67,787 visits to the facility. Not a single case of COVID has been linked back to the facility. And like I said, we do not require masks. Masks are entirely optional. Our safety protocol is more than enough to keep people safe.
Absolutely. And the reason why I ask you mention that is because I'm sure that somebody will be wondering right now, like, okay, you're being irresponsible as a business owner, which
that was very, very common for people to say that. And usually that's a statement made out of ignorance. If you took a look at our safety protocol, it's comprehensive. It's actually the best in the country as far as small business and big business goes. We do more than hospitals do. We offer take-home tests. We have 6,500 rapid antibody tests that people can test if they're COVID positive, if they would like. We have temperature scanners at the door. When you walk in, you stand in front of a biometric face scanner that reads your temperature. There's an entirely touchless system when you walk in. There's a bin of clean pens. You fill out a health questionnaire with a couple questions. You record your temperature. It's part of our contact tracing system. If something ever happened, we would be able to identify who was in the gym that day, when they were in, who needs to be warned. We have foggers and misters that go around on a daily basis. Every single person that walks in has their own individualized pre-cleaned spray bottle. There are paper towels all over the place. The spray bottles have a peroxide-based cleaner in it. And everybody's spraying and wiping as we go. We have a brand new HVAC system with the proper filtration systems. We have what's called a UV air scrubber, which is a mobile decontamination unit. It circulates 10,000 cubic square feet of air per minute, cleans it with UV light, which is chemical free, and leaves all of our air 99.9% virus and bacteria free.
Wow.
The entire place is socially distanced. We went above and beyond, and we did so because we knew that people were going to foolishly say stupid things like that. So we went above and beyond just to shut those people up, and to show how absurd it was, and that this was never about public safety. Because if it was about public safety, the government would have reached out and wanted to talk about our safety protocol, but they don't. They just want to reach out and punish you.
Right. Yo, absolutely, man, and I'm grateful that you mentioned all that, because I know that, like I said, I've been following you pretty much from the very beginning. I know that you have implemented everything in your business to make sure that everybody's safe and you keep to the protocols, and then you prove these assholes how wrong they are. But I think at this point, in time, we are after the election. I think miraculously COVID just disappeared. Who knew that all we needed was a fucking election to make this motherfucker disappear, But let's deep down a little bit more, man, because I think now that people know a little bit more about your story, let's deep down in the mindset, because I think people needs to hear the truth, and the truth when it comes not to be afraid of some authority like the one you're dealing with in Bellmawr right now, because you have a mission. The reason why you're a business owner is because you want freedom for your life and you want a better quality of life for your family. So what is your mindset behind, like, I'm not going to let no motherfucker take away from me what I'm building for me and my family and my future,
I mean, that's it. You just said it right there. We are self-made men, and we are firm believers in the American dream. even with all of the faults that this country has, I do believe that this is the greatest country in the world. No country in the world provides the level of opportunity for all men and women that America does. And a lot of people, especially in this country, don't understand that because they're not very well educated on the world around them. I've traveled quite a bit. I have a lot of friends who come from other places and who have lived in other societies where there isn't the ability for entrepreneurship. That entrepreneurship just doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And the idea of social mobility doesn't exist. You know, here in America, not everybody is born, sort of with the same advantages. But the fact of the matter is that if you work hard and you do your best and you continuously do the right thing, you will end up in a better place than where you started. That's an absolute fact. And that's unique in the world. There's only a couple places in the entire world where something like that is possible. And I'm a firm believer in that, and I will defend that until my death. And what you're seeing right now is an attack on American values. They are trying to destroy the middle class. They are trying to separate the haves from the have-nots. You know, they're trying to turn this into just pick a country. I mean, a couple of years ago, I spent about a month in Brazil. And you look around in Brazil, and there's two types of people. There's haves and there's have-nots. There's no middle class. You know, there's the wealthy, and then there's the people who don't have jack shit. And that's what they're trying to do this country, because a country like a population like that is very easy to control because everybody becomes dependent upon the government. And I'll die before I depend on the government for anything. So when it came time to step up and defend, it wasn't a question for Frank and I. You know, a lot of people have called us courageous. It's not about courage. It's not. It's about doing what's right and standing up for what you believe in. You know, I love this country and I love all the people in it, and I will sacrifice myself on this hill if I have to. And I speak for Frank when I say that too. It's pretty simple, and I don't say this to be a tough guy, but if you're going to ruin my life and you're going to take everything from me, you are going to absolutely have to destroy me first. And that's a non-negotiable thing.
And I'm there with you.
That's it. There's really there's nothing I need to know more than that. You know, we went into this very unprepared, but we went into it very prepared as well. We didn't know what we were facing, but we knew that no matter what, we were on the right side of this, and that all it took was the strength to withstand what was coming, and the faith in our convictions. You know, we stand very strongly on the Constitution, and that's the document that we swear by. You know, because that is the document that this country was founded on, and that the principles of this country are strong: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all men. And I won't back down from that ever.
Absolutely. And no, I'm there with you, man. And I totally understand also where you're coming from when you were saying about other countries, because, you know, I'm originally from Guatemala, and all this entrepreneurship shit, it doesn't exist right now.
You would know best.
Yeah,
there's
man.
opportunity.
Absolutely. I got to a point in my life that I didn't know what I wanted to do, you know, and I was miserable because all my family and friends were telling me, like, you need to go to fucking college and do this and that. I never understood why my dad at some point even was forcing me to go get a job when he was a business owner, you know, like he owned his own company. He was successful. Like, why in the fuck you're telling me to go get a job? You know, but it was the program that he had in his mind too, you know, like he struggled with that and all that stuff. But it was not until I decided to pack all my shit and left 8-7 years ago that I wouldn't find this entrepreneur journey that I now enjoy, you know, like never again in my life I'm gonna go work for somebody. You know,
I think that immigrants in this country understand that much more than a very, very big majority of people who were born here. I think people that are born in this country really take for granted the type of opportunities, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't matter where you come from, whether it's a Central or a South American country or somewhere else in the globe. The fact of the matter is that even if there is a capitalist kind of structure in that country, the opportunities are just not quite what they are here. And that's something that we have to defend, because if we lose it here, it's going to go away everywhere. And that's
right.
that's what makes this place so beautiful, is individuals can work hard and make something of themselves no matter where they start. And I think that's just the greatest thing in the world.
Absolutely, man. I totally agree with you. Now, I know this next question is going to be a little bit of actually, it's going to be a complex question, but we talk about the fear and how people is being just giving away their rights, and somehow they have been programmed to think something completely different to what is the reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it is the main thing that have caused so many business owners and entrepreneurs fall into that lie, that they even believe that they're not essential at this point anymore, like, okay, I'm going to lose my business, rather than actually stand and fight for what they believe for?
Couple things, I think. One, I think that people are afraid of the consequences of opening. I think a lot of people, I mean, at first, everybody was kind of a little scared of this virus. I'll admit I was, when at first I didn't want to shut down at all, but I was like, man, what the fuck is this thing coming? Like, it's kind of sounded like doomsday. But very quickly, I think a large portion of the population was like, this isn't making sense. When these numbers came out and they were fudging the numbers and using like video footage that wasn't even accurate and whatever. But a lot of people still stayed closed, even knowing that. And I think it's because they're just afraid of a fight. They don't have the balls enough to stand up. And I don't mean that as like an insult to people, but I struggle. I struggle with being sympathetic for people when it comes to that, and trying to understand. But at the same time, somebody's telling you can't earn a living. Like, what? Yeah. Why are you just accepting that? I have a hard time feeling bad for people who have stayed closed when it's very clear that these assholes are just fucking with us at this point. It's not. People are not dropping dead in the streets. Like that's what they forecasted. Yeah. They told us 2.2 million people would be dead by May. That was the original forecast, 2.2 million people. And even with the inflated numbers, we are not even the slightest bit close.
Yeah.
And the lie just continues on and continues on and continues on. And at some point, you've got to grow a set of balls and say, I don't care what the consequences are of opening, because the consequences of staying closed are way worse. Yeah. That's, to me, like, that's what I laugh when people call me, like, they're like, oh, you guys are so courageous, you're heroes. And it's like, no, I just don't want to lose everything. I don't want to lose my country. Right. I don't want to lose my rights. I don't want to lose my freedoms. I don't want to lose my business. I'm more afraid of losing everything that I love than the consequences of what Governor Murphy's going to do to me. Like, what are you going to do? Throw me in prison? I've been to prison. I'm not afraid of prison. What else you got? You're going to fine me? Okay, I'll make money and I'll pay it off. Right. Like, I'll pay you $10 a day for the rest of my fucking life. Like, what else you got? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't scare me. Absolutely. And people need to realize that politicians always run off of fear. They always run off of fear because they need you to think that you need them. Because once you realize that you don't need these people, they're powerless. They're done. It's poof. It's a house of cards. It goes away. And they're all, whether it's coronavirus or the next thing, they're always framing things in the lens of fear. And if you take a second and look at the reality of the situation and take the fear goggles off, you'll see that these people are they're professional liars and they're professional bullshitters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as an adult, it's your responsibility to be smart enough or to be aware enough to see that and react accordingly. Like, you can't just take what these people have ingrained themselves so much into society that when they say something, people just take it as fact. Just because this elected official says, whatever, doesn't mean it's a true statement. Like, you still have to prove your ideas. You still have to prove things with facts and logic. And they don't. They just get up there, they hold press conferences, they talk a whole bunch of mindless shit, they try to scare the hell out of you, and then they roll out their policies that steamroll your life. And to me, people need to start having more confidence in themselves and their own ability, and not be so dependent upon government. Government is not our nanny. It's not our mommy. It's not our daddy. That is not, at least not in the United States. That's not what this system of government was set up to do. The system of government was set up to protect one thing and one thing only, and that was your rights. Your rights as a free man and a free woman in this country, and you have a lot of them. Not to protect your health, not to give you free education, not to give you a stimulus check, not to do any of that. It's to protect your rights, and that is it. And people need to start being more self-sufficient and more happy about that, because it's a beautiful thing.
Right.
That's what freedom is. But like we talked about, that's what we talked about, before we started, was freedom isn't free. It comes with a price. You have to work. You have to bust your ass. You have to be diligent. You have to learn. There's a whole variety of, or there's a whole world of things that come along with freedom that are you and your responsibility only. And somewhere along the line, over the past 50 to 60 years, the people of this country have forgotten that in some way.
Absolutely.
And that's something that really needs to change.
No, I totally agree with that, man, because, I think people need to start taking responsibility. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's the things that people needs to listen right now. Like, the government is not here to fucking pay for your shit. You have to be responsible for that. I'm not here waiting for the government to send me a check so I can go to the doctor or something. I have to bust my ass for it. And I'm glad I do, because that makes me more responsible and helps me build my discipline and appreciate more of what I have in my life. But when I don't, what happens is you just start whining and bitching about why life isn't fair. You know what I mean? Which takes me to my next point that I want to discuss with you, because I know that you've been talking a lot about all this stuff. And by the way, man, I truly believe that, even that you're very humble to say that that you're not that courageous and all that stuff. I believe you are, because you're setting the example for what we're supposed to be doing, especially us as men, because I know you talk about this a lot, and this is something that I want to really talk with you right now in the show, because I think it's important, man. And one of the reasons, like, people like you or like Andy Frisella or Sean Whalen inspire me and inspire some other men and women too, is because they understand how important it is to be a man in our society, which is not what we're seeing right now. It's not.
You're seeing a very dismal idea of masculinity.
Absolutely. So talk to us a little about your perspective from like teach us something about what is really being a man mean, because I've been learning a lot through all your content and all that stuff, and it kind of like, I find myself right now in a very weird season of my life, because I've been thriving and I've been having that desire to really dig deeper into my masculinity. And actually my wife is even enjoying that, because that's the truth.
But that is the truth. That is the truth, because right now what you are seeing in America is an all-out assault on masculinity. You're seeing it through almost every avenue too. You see it in entertainment. I mean, like, look at most movies, right? How is the husband always portrayed? As like some dull-witted yes man. Our kids are taught from an early age, our young boys are taught, like, not to be rough and not to be violent. And they're taught that if they're hyperactive, that they need to calm down and they need to sit and be quiet and be good. We're taught, we're echoed through the chambers of radical feminism and progressivism, that men have to be accepting of everything and everybody, and we have to agree with everybody. We're not allowed to disagree at all. Because if you're a man and you disagree with something, it automatically translates to you hate something. Right. And that's not okay. That's not okay at all. So what's happening because of that is, if you openly disagree, or if you say, take for example, I don't know, whatever, take gay marriage,
right.
You are allowed as an individual to either agree or disagree with it.
Absolutely.
But if you are a straight man and you say, hey, I don't agree with that, it's automatically translated as you hate gay people. Yeah. And that's so what happens with that is, instead of hearing people's opinions and people being allowed to have differing opinions, everybody's afraid to talk now because they'll be publicly shamed as a homophobe or whatever, you know. So
Yeah.
you as a Hispanic man, you could sit, you know, if you openly say like, I don't want to date white women, you know, I don't want to be in a mixed relationship. I want to be with another woman from Guatemala, or I want to be with
Right.
another Latina woman. You know, it's well, why not? Well, what do you hate white women? And it's like, no, you're allowed to have your preferences, and your preferences do not necessarily equate to you hating something, you know.
Right.
But there's been that infusion of that lie in there, to now men are petrified to say anything.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of complacent, just yes men who go along with everything in society. You know, you can't speak up too loud as a man, because then you're oppressing other voices,
Yeah.
or you're not allowed to have an opinion at the table, because of some arbitrary idea presented by some feminists. And as a man, you're not allowed to be violent, or you're not allowed to explore violence, I should say. You know,
Right.
we don't like the idea of violence, just you know, as a tool of evil, but men should be very, very comfortable with the idea of violence,
Totally.
because men who understand violence are not very quick to use it, because they understand the dangers behind it. However, they are prepared to defend what is theirs, and that is the primary role of a man in any social circle, is to be able to protect what is his and what he loves, and that's shunned. No, you're not allowed. You know, little boys
Yeah.
are not allowed to fight on the playground. You know, and as men, you're not allowed to, you know, to be strong, to be capable of violence, because then you're some threat. You know,
Yeah.
and you get lumped in with the men who are assholes, which is hilarious, because the same type of people that lump you in, you know, like that, you know, with bad men, lumping all men into that same trait, are the same
Yeah.
people who don't want you to make generalizations about them.
Yeah.
You know, i.e.
That's true.
the radical feminists. So it's, what you're seeing is, and that's 5 of maybe 100 different ways. And we're taught the wrong values, essentially. Young boys grow up, and the only outlet they have for their masculinity is like sexual prowess.
Right.
And that's, while that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, boys are taught that that's what makes them a man. Like, how many women can they get? And that's what that does, is that fundamentally undermines all of the other virtues that you should have as a man.
Right.
And it just destroys masculinity. It destroys young men. They become directionless, and it destroys the connection between men and women, because men and women start to resent each other because of that dynamic, where monogamy is not so heavily valued anymore,
Right.
by either sex. And what you wind up with is a bunch of really weak-hearted and weak-minded men, who are afraid to speak up, who don't want to work very hard, because they've become dependent upon this idea of big government taking care of them and providing all the answers, because they never had to provide for themselves. Mommy
Absolutely.
and daddy provided for them their whole life. They went away to college on a bunch of loans, and they sat and partied and fucked their way through college, and come out 22, 23 years old, not having an idea how to navigate the world around them. And then they're just angry, because the world seems like this big, scary, unfair place, because they don't know how to navigate and defend their way through the world, because they're weak. And I can say that because I was one of those guys.
Right.
That's what I did with my life, you know, especially as a kid. You know, I didn't have a male role model. So how did I become a man? I fucked and partied my way into some circle of respect in college. And that got me absolutely nowhere. It got me
Yeah.
absolutely nowhere, because when it was time to get into the real world, I had no work ethic. I had no determination. I had no drive. I had no ability to see the bigger picture. I could only see what was in front of me. the idea of putting off pleasure for long-term success was completely alien to me.
Right.
It was all about, and something else you said at the beginning of, before we started recording, was the idea that like people want to, there's this get rich quick idea. Like that doesn't happen in the world. It's
Yeah.
very rare that happens. What happens is if you bust your ass day in and day out over time, you will become very successful. But that idea is very, very abnormal these days. You know, it's all about get rich quick. And instant success and instant gratification. And now we just have a bunch of dull, really weak, incapable men who are not good at much other than fantasy football drafts, watching other men on television be physical,
Yeah.
and, you know, swiping around on fucking Tinder. And
Absolutely.
it's pathetic. Like if you take a step back and you really look at the state of the American man, it's pretty pathetic.
And you know, man, it's not only here. I have seen this everywhere, you know, and I'm telling you that I came from a different country, you know, and it's funny how I can see a lot of similarity between your story and mine, because my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old, and my dad was there, but I felt like at some point he really didn't give me all the things that I needed to be a man. And my mom was trying to take me away from all that strength and all that violence and all that kind of stuff, you know, who made me a mad person when I was in high school too. You know, I was always fighting, always getting into troubles. Like I sucked at school, you know, and it was not until I took myself through a process of like, you know what, I need to find something else, because I feel like there's something else. Like you said, I was tired of seeing people on the TV. Like, why can't I be like this man, shooting shit, fighting, and doing all that stuff, like learning all this kind of stuff. And like John Elrich says in his book, you know, give a kid a stick, you know, and he's gonna make a bazooka out of it, because that's part of, it's ingrained in our nature, in our instinct, you know. And when you mentioned the violence and all that stuff, he also mentioned in his book, he says, yeah, the media is going to tell you when the shootings in school happen, right? How, oh, this kid starts shooting everybody in the school, and we need to control men. But nobody talks about the kid who jumped in front of a girl to protect her and lost his life, because that's part of his strength. That's part of his instinct as a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah. He was following his that's the most primal instinct a man has, is to protect. But that in order to protect, young boys have to be very acquainted with the idea of violence.
right,
And the only ideas that men really get from violence these days are the hyperinflated, sensationalized violence in video games and movies.
right,
In order to truly understand what violence is, you have to be violent. So I mean, I've been a big fan of martial arts my whole life, because I think it's one of the best things that a young man can do to really become a man. Because when you understand violence, you don't want violence. You know,
yeah, it's true.
you understand the consequences of violence. So violence will always become the last resort. But once you understand it, you are capable of it, and you are capable of protecting the things that you love, be that yourself, be that the women in your life, be it your community and your culture, or be that your country as a whole. And I think that's a really, really severely missing kind of link in masculinity today. You know, I'm a big fan of Mr. Jason Wilson. Is a martial arts instructor and sort of life coach for a lot of young men. And, you know, guys like that, he works with a lot of young kids, and, you know, he provides that structure for a lot of young boys that would never be able to explore that. And I was very lucky to explore that as a kid, and I got away from it as I was a teenager. And I've gotten back to it as I've gotten older, and I'm very thankful for it. And I think that's one of the fundamental things, because life is not easy. So if you learn how to
Yeah,
fight physically, you also learn how to fight sort of metaphorically.
yeah,
You know, that translates over, that strength that you learn from fighting in the physical sense translates well into being able to fight up here. strong body, strong mind. They're very, very interconnected. And I think that's a missing link here.
I agree with you because since I started doing like combat sports again and starting like pushing myself harder in the gym, and I've been working out for several years already, like start focusing on that for my life, I really have discovered more of that mentality connection with working out and getting stronger, not only physically but mentally, and start seeing life from a different perspective and understand that it is up to me. And one of the other things that I think a lot of people, and this is for men and women, they look validation in other men, they look validation in other women, but a woman will never validate a man because a woman have no fucking clue as to be a man, and a man will never be able to validate a woman because you don't know what is to be a woman, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
the only place that you can learn to be a man is among other men, and that's again another missing link is the society that we're in now discourages men from being exclusive. Like we have to include women in everything now,
right.
And I'm all for inclusivity, but men should be able to congregate together in some sort of fashion. 60, 70 years ago, there were men's clubs where men would just go on Saturdays and Sundays away from their family, and they would be around other men, and whether they were cigar clubs or whatever, social clubs, it was a place where young men and old men could gather and talk, and they could talk business and politics and family and love and sex and relationships and whatever, all that, money, finance, parenthood, all that. They were able to learn from each other, and they were able to congregate because that's where masculinity grows among men.
Right.
And that's why, I'm a big proponent now of really finding a core group of guys in your life, who are on the same wavelength or who want to go in the same place. The gym is a place where we have it. I have a group of guys here, and there's a lot of groups of guys here, but we run together like a pack.
Right.
And it sounds stupid, but we have a group chat, and we hold each other accountable. We let our goals be known.
That's awesome.
We have group workouts. Once a week we go upstairs and we just fucking fight. And it sounds stupid and it sounds childish, but we whoop each other's asses.
Right.
And it's a bonding process. And in that time, not only are we rolling around, knocking each other down and all that stuff, but afterwards we're talking, and we got younger guys, we got older guys. I'm one of the older guys in the group, and I got guys who were seniors in high school, who come to me, or come to other members of the group and have issues.
Right.
That they don't necessarily want to talk to mom about, or they don't necessarily want to talk to their friends their age who don't get it, or who may not even want to talk to their father about, or don't have a father to talk to it about. And they come and they, and a lot of times I don't even talk in the group chat. I let these guys hash it out, and they hash out their own problems. They hold each other accountable. One
That's
guy
awesome,
does something stupid, and everybody hops on his ass about it, and it's tough love. It's not like, oh, it's okay, buddy. It's going to be okay. It's no, you fucked up. Do better. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
like you're one of us. Like we expect better out of you. So, and we need more of that on every level throughout society. And I think women should do that too. But unfortunately, women get to do that more often.
Yeah, totally.
Especially as men tend to get a little older. Their social circles shrink. And next thing you know, you don't really have that connection with anybody. So you're out there on your own,
Right.
trying to figure out the world on your own, and you don't necessarily have anybody to talk to about business, about whatever, you have your wife or your girlfriend to talk to. And women are amazing. They're capable of so many beautiful things, but they cannot tell a man how to be a man, and they cannot provide good, meaningful information beyond just some sort of third-party advice on how a man should handle things as a man.
Totally. And that's something that, for me in 2020 has been a little bit hard because since last year, I started realizing that, I really want to find a group of men that we can get together, like Like I need that bonding again, but unfortunately the fucking COVID happened. So everything changed it, right? It's
Yeah.
ridiculous, but
But that's something really dangerous about COVID is
yeah,
social isolation.
exactly. And I have this conversation with my wife sometimes too, because it's like, I really want to go and hang out with guys all the time, so not all the time, but at least once a week, and talk shit and whatever. Or sometimes, I'm the kind of person that I like to go and just sit in a bar and grab a beer by myself and just have that me time as a man and think about, okay, what's coming next, or what things I want to do. And those things are important, but, man, I believe also that with all this happening to you, it's been kind of like interesting to see how it's been developing, because you've been inspiring a lot of people. And I think it's been taking you, for what I see, man, I think it's taking you to a place where you're going to start inspiring a lot of men and women as well. How do you feel about that?
It has definitely pushed me in a direction that seems like, my next step after all of this is through this, I've developed sort of a mouthpiece
Right.
and a platform. And I'm still figuring it out, honestly,
Right.
because I don't claim to be any expert. I know the only reason I know anything in life is because I'm the kind of guy who fucks up royally.
Right.
But I do learn from my mistakes. My life has been a series of royal fuck up after fuck up after fuck up. But the one thing I have been able to do is learn from my mistakes. So I don't claim to be an expert, but I have found myself surrounded by some pretty fucking awesome guys in all of this. And, I've learned a lot. I've had more connections grow out of what I and Frank did by opening. And that's the silver lining in all this is the networking that I've gained is more than most people can gain in an entire lifetime. And I gained it
Right.
overnight. And I have resources of other really, really phenomenal examples of men who have become close friends and have become people that I can reach out to for help and for direction. And a lot of those guys are a little bit older than me. And some of them aren't. Some of them are my age. Some of them are even a little bit younger. But just age doesn't matter. It's, like I've connected with people like Ryan Michler, who runs
It's an amazing guy. Yeah.
the Order of Man. Andy Frisella and I are very close friends. Sean Whalen is another one. There's a super long list of these guys, and there are very strong men out there. The problem is that we're very few and far between, and we're all isolated, and what we need to start thinking about is how do we start bringing guys together, because that's the number one thing I hear a lot is, I get a lot of messages where guys will message me and say exactly what you said. Like, hey man, like I want to start, like, what do I do? Like, where do I start? Like all these guys I grew up with, I don't think they're getting this message. Like, how do I connect with guys that want to do something big, guys that want to learn, want to get better? Cause all my friends, they just sit around and play video games or whatever. And I think that we really need to start thinking on a big scale of a blueprint, and how to start influencing that. I think it really does start at the lower levels, and start influencing young men, so that future generations to come aren't having the same issue. And in doing so, I think that that'll draw a lot of men together right away.
Absolutely, man. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you here in my show, because to be completely honest with you, man, I've been feeling something pulling me a lot towards men, to like, okay, it's like to discover my masculinity. I don't know what it is yet. I'm trying to figure out this shit. We all trying to figure out life, but
we haven't been given a lot of direction. That's
exactly
kind of the problem. And the only direction that we've been given, especially from our government and from the media, is misdirection. So we're left up to our own devices to kind of get back to some traditional idea of what it means to be a man.
Absolutely. And like you said, man, like there's a few people or a few men trying to do this. I think it's kind of like maybe a next step, just to bring all these people together and start moving something forward, because I think it is important. If we understand that and we understand beyond whatever the fucking government and the media can tell you, I think it's part of our obligation, or moral obligation, to start putting the message out there, like in the way you're doing it. Because, and like you said, your network, right? I know a lot of people say your network is your net worth, but I think it goes beyond your net worth. I think your network and the people you surround yourself with is what's gonna make you as a person, whether you're a woman or whether you're a man. Because if you don't surround yourself with the right people, you're fucked. And you're right, like all the people, all my friends from high school, my friends from my childhood back in Guatemala, I don't talk to them anymore because they don't understand this shit. They don't understand this kind of conversations.
You might as well be speaking, another language.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've noticed that more and more as time goes on, even before all of this started. Just how important it is to choose wisely who you associate with. Because I've run in a lot of different circles in my life, and I can tell you I ran in some pretty bad circles. Or just some pretty fucking lame circles. Right. It doesn't even have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be getting in trouble. I've been in those circles too, but I've been in circles of guys that just don't have any ambition. Right. And that'll fucking kill you. Like, you'll wind up depressed, fat, broke, hanging around the wrong people. I did it after my when I separated from my wife. I lived in Arizona for a little while when I was married. And in the transition period before I moved back to Jersey, I was still living in Arizona, and I was hanging out with, a group of guys that were just going nowhere fast.
Right.
We were all making good money, but nobody had any money because all we did was spend money. Right. Nobody was interested in building. Everybody was interested in very superficial ideals where, we were out at the club every night popping bottles and chasing girls around.
Right.
And then when we weren't doing that, we weren't really doing much else. It was, what do we do during the day? Oh, let's smoke and chill and play video games. And it's like, I looked around and like looked at my pockets and looked at my body and was just disgusted with myself. You know what I mean? Because I had turned into a worthless slob, who wasn't contributing anything to society, wasn't building towards any greater future. I was just kind of fucking taking up space and being in the way. And that's, I think a lot of guys fall into that category today, where they're not necessarily doing anything bad, but they're not necessarily doing anything good either.
Totally, man. And I think that's a big question everybody should answer, like, what are you willing to do to change your life? Because that's, same kind of like similar stuff to me, like 7 years ago, like right now, December 2nd is going to be my anniversary. And the day I decided to, awesome. What, fuck all this, because I was the same, man. I was a lazy motherfucker. I was in a sad place in my life after trying to get married and that shit didn't work out. And then realizing that I wasn't nobody, just taking space and air in this world, and realizing that, fuck, I'm 24, 25 years old. What in the fuck I'm doing with my life, and I'm not going to do shit. And literally 2 weeks after, I was packing my shed and got a one-way ticket and never looked back after 7 years, awesome. Man.
That's awesome. That's
and
awesome.
I'm here now.
That's what it's all about. And we need to start getting more comfortable with taking those risks and taking those leaps and having, in order to do something like that, like, you got to have a lot of fucking confidence in yourself to do something like that. And that we need to start kind of fostering that in especially young men, you know what I mean? Because you got a lot of men who are walking around who don't do stuff like that, not necessarily because they don't want to, but because they think that they can't. And they shoot themselves in the foot before they even get started with this toxic mindset, because they've never been taught to be confident, or they've never done the little tasks. And again, going back to martial arts is another one, or even weightlifting and physical fitness. That's a breeding ground for confidence. You know, and a lot of guys are walking around 20 years old, 25 years old, not an ounce of confidence inside their body, and they're wondering why they're not doing anything or making any moves. And it's because they lack the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to bet the fucking house on myself, and I'm going to go do this. I'm going to buy that one-way ticket. Like, you got to have some balls to buy a one-way ticket. You know what I mean? Like you do. You really do. To pack up everything in a situation that may not be the best, but I'm sure you were comfortable, right? You know, it's easier not to leave that situation than it is to leave it.
Yeah.
Because again, we're talking about the idea of short-term versus long-term pleasure, you know, and
Yeah.
in the short term, staying in that situation is easy, it's comfortable, but in the long term, you suffer. And that's always that trade-off with that instant gratification. You know, people love this idea of instant gratification, but they don't realize that it comes at a price of long-term dissatisfaction. When on the other hand, if you flip it around and you focus more on this long-term success over here, you're going to be a little uncomfortable in the short term. But once you get here, you're going to be good. You know,
Totally.
and it's like, that's not taught. That's a fundamental idea that a lot of men, I think, don't understand at all. You know, a lot of men are afraid to get into the gym. Why? Because they don't want to look stupid. That's the dumbest reason ever. Everybody looks stupid when they first walk in. Anybody who walks in my gym and it's their first day, they look like a deer in the headlights. But after about 2-3 weeks, they walk in, chest up, you know, hey, what's up? And they're good because they went through that part of being uncomfortable for the short term for that longer term success. And there's a guy I love in here. He's awesome. We call him Johnny Hot Sauce. He's like 55 years old. When he walked in here, he was miserable. His wife had just left him. All sorts of bad stuff was happening. He was depressed, you know, and he walked in here one day and he had his head down and he was kind of scared and he, you know, didn't really want to do much. And, you know, I guess he figured he would give it a shot.
Right.
Johnny walks in here every day. He's in here 7 days a week. First of all, he's radically different looking. You know, he was soft and kind of weak looking, and now he's, you know, for a 55-year-old man, he looks fucking great. He walks with his head up. He's got a big beaming smile because he took that chance and he was uncomfortable. He walked into the fucking lion's den here, you know, among all these guys and all these girls in here who bust their ass and are big and strong and all this stuff. And he bit the bullet in the short term, and he was uncomfortable, and now he's comfortable, and now he's thriving, and he's
Fuck yeah.
his life is better, and he's happy, and he's smiling, you know, and that's something that as men, and even as people in general, as kids, we're not taught that.
Yeah.
You know, everything is
That's
short
true.
term because our parents aren't teaching us that. And what is the media teaching us? The media is teaching us consumerism. Buy now. Get this, you'll be happy. Buy this, take this pill, you know, get this newest cell phone now. No, get this one now, you know, no, buy this thing and you'll be pretty and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's all short term, buy. Don't worry about the future. And it needs to get flip-flop big time, you know?
Right. Yeah, totally, man. And it's funny because you literally, the 25-year-old guy you were talking with zero confidence and shit, you just fucking described me, man, 7 years ago, because that's fucking exactly who I was, you know? And you're right. But I wasn't, at that point, I wasn't like, you know, any comfortable situation. I literally came here with $500 in my pocket. That's all. No fucking clue what I was doing. Nothing. But I promise you that it's been the best decision of my life, man. And now I'm here interviewing you, man. So it is amazing, man. It's a great journey. But anyway, man, we've been here for almost an hour here. I really appreciate everything you've been sharing today, man. Like, you've been inspiring me a lot, and I hope you've been inspiring also the audience for this podcast. And but before we go, man, I would just like to leave us with some words of encouragement for the people and the business owners out there trying to get through all this bullshit, and also where people can find you, man. If somebody wants to reach out to you or send you a message, or maybe what's the best way to find you and connect with you?
The best place to find me is the social media platform that I use the most is Instagram, and that's Ian Smith Fitness. It's where I post a lot of the updates. If you're interested about what's going on with the gym, you know, we're still ingrained in a heavy battle. And that profile has a link tree on it. So that's got all these links to all this other stuff, the Atilis Gym website, a whole bunch of other stuff there. So if you're interested in kind of helping out, you can do that as well. As far as something to leave everybody with, it's the same thing I say every podcast I've done. If you would have asked me in February, if you would have thought that I could have the impact on the world that I've had, I would have laughed in your face. And that's not to say I wasn't confident. You know what I mean? Like, right. I was confident. We had just bought the gym not long ago. The gym was doing great. I was a confident dude, and but I never imagined the type of power and influence in a positive way that I could have on the world. I never thought that so many people would want to hear what I had to say and be interested in just what I have to offer.
Right.
And I was so fucking wrong. So don't ever underestimate, no matter what you're looking at, no matter what task you're looking at or what goal you're looking at, don't ever underestimate how powerful you are as an individual. Because what Frank and I did changed the landscape of not only New Jersey, but the country.
Yes.
And tens, if not hundreds of thousands and millions of people have been impacted by what we did. And it's just two guys who stood firm in what they believed in and didn't back down and, dug their heels into the sand, and started with a goal and decided to see it through no matter what. So it doesn't always have to be obviously about standing up to the government or whatever, or changing the landscape of a country, but don't ever underestimate how powerful you are as an individual and what kind of influence that you can have on the world around you. And knowing that you do have influence, make sure that it is a good one. Because just like you can have a positive influence, you can also have a negative influence on the world around you. So take that with you, and hold that tight, whether it's building your business or making a major life change or whatever it is. Don't ever underestimate how powerful you are as an individual, because it's more than you would ever think.
Totally, man. So good, man. So good. Thank you for sharing that. And I totally believe, man, like you said a couple months ago, you wouldn't believe this, but I think you definitely have a higher purpose in this life, and like I said, and I've been saying this a couple of times already, but you have inspired me, and I know you have inspired a lot of people. And in anything I can collaborate, man, it's something, start a man movement or something, count me in, because I'm all in to helping our brothers, and also any other woman who needs to change their mentality when it comes to their masculinity and what we represent in society. So thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate you. And for you guys listening, if you enjoyed the show, make sure to share it with somebody, put it on social media, send it a DM, a text message, email, or whatever you can do to help us spread the word. And also make sure to leave us that review on iTunes or subscribe to the YouTube channel so more people can find the show and have access to all this information. I will see you guys on the next episode. In the meantime, be safe, keep working hard, and cheers. Later, brother.
Later.
Hey guys, thank you for watching. This show was brought to you by the Marketing Brewing Company, an industry-leading marketing provider and coaching firm. If this episode have provided you with valuable information for you and your business, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you know somebody who needs to hear this, share it with them. Send me a text message, a DM, put it on social media, whatever you can do to spread the word. And lastly, if you're a brewery owner ready to take your business to the next level, make sure you head to marketingbrewingco.com and fill out the form to get started and get your free assessment of your current marketing and sales strategies. I will see you guys for the next episode. In the meantime, cheers.